The third tier hockey league in Finland is called the Suomi Sarja. The Suomi Sarja was called the first division up to the year 2000, when it was also the second tier hockey league, up to when the Mestis took its place. The league is in between the pro and the semi-pro level, as the insignificant attendance levels do not allow the teams to have big salary budgets. The league is mixed with junior players looking to break out and older players looking to finish their career in this league, as it's less prosperous than the Mestis and the Liga. The promotion and relegation is in place between the Suomi Sarja and the Mestis and the fourth tier league. Today's interview is with Nicolas Ulesi. Nicolas is an Italian hockey player that moved to Finland as a teenager and has played there for 8 years now. Today we'll talk to him about his experience in the Suomi Sarja, as he's been playing there for 4 years now. Hi Nicolas, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you, Martin, for calling me.
So our first question will be, how did you move from Italy to Finland and what was your motivation?
Yeah, actually my mom's half Finnish, so that's how I got to Finland the first time, and I came here as an exchange student the first year that I was here, and then I loved it and I decided to stay, and I just progressed my hockey career as well as my studying career, and then combined the two in the last 8 years that I've been here now.
Yeah, so could you explain and compare the junior system in Finland compared to maybe Italy, for example?
Yeah, so I came to Finland when I was 17, and that age is B juniors in Finland, and then there is A juniors, and then the men's league start. Yeah, so it was compared to Italy. Well, I was playing in Milan, so it was quite a big jump, practicing every day, playing 2 to 3 times a week. It was quite a challenge at first. My mental strength and also my physical strength at first were not like really up to it, but I worked my way into it, and then played 2 seasons in B juniors, and then I moved up to A juniors where I played 2 other seasons, and then I started I embarked this men adult career in Suomi Sarja, and I've been there ever since. Tried to moving up, but it's quite difficult, I feel, especially for a foreigner.
And how about the Suomi Sarja? How is it organized? Do you think it's a professional league or semi-professional? And for example, how many practices a week do you have?
Well, it really depends on the team where you're in. Suomi Sarja is really it's quite a big mix of players and of teams. There are teams that are more professional in terms of organization, in terms of mentality of the players, in terms of practices and goals and objectives during the seasons. And then there is other teams where they are either relatively new teams or quite poor teams. So it really depends on the teams. I've played in teams where you practice every day of the week, and sometimes you even have morning practices. And then there is other teams where you practice 3 times a week, and it's not really, you're not really supported as a player. There's not really that professionalism there, but as I told you, it's a big mix. It really depends where you go, but there is teams where you can be more professional than other teams in Suomi Sarja.
And do you have a job, or do you do this as a profession? And what about the other players? Do they all have jobs or not really?
As said, that also depends on the team where you're in. I do have a job. I work full time. In my team, most players work, and the team also helps finding work. But then there is other teams where you don't necessarily need a job. You can live off with the minimum salary that the team is paying you. But yeah, it's, most players in Suomi Sarja need to have a job to being able to get to the end of the month, so to say.
And do you see the Suomi Sarja as a stepping stone to the Mestis and the Liga, or is it pretty much a destination for players?
It's hard to say. There is movements up and down from Mestis. Very, very rare that you can get from Suomi Sarja to SM Liga straight. It's quite a rare thing to happen. Maybe there is players that from SM League that decide to go to a more to a less professional level, and then they come to Suomi Sarja. But well, yeah, of course, the best players that are in Suomi Sarja, even during the season, they can get loaned to Mestis teams. There is every month there is the player of the month, and most of the times the player of the month gets a loan contract into Mestis. Other than that, yeah, in springtime, except now for due to this coronavirus situation, but there is tryouts, and all the best players from Suomi Sarja get a chance to try to get a Mestis contract. But Suomi Sarja is quite it's the league where you can easily lose yourself. It's very hard to so to say focus on what your real goal is, unless you're very young and you don't have a family. You're not planning on getting forward in life that much, because you don't necessarily need a job. But if you're young, then Suomi Sarja it's a quite competitive level, and it's good to prepare yourself for Mestis eventually. But it's a tough league to move forward. I've been here now 4 seasons, and feel sometimes that I've lost myself.
So what about traveling? Do you have to travel a lot for games, or are all the games pretty close?
There is very little to no free time. There is a very big amount of games during the season. I think it's over 40 regular games during the season, and then there is playoffs, playouts. It feels like it never ends sometimes, and there is 2 to 3 games per week. So Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. So it's quite. Despite it not being so professional, it's very demanding for a player to play in Suomi Sarja and then have a job at the same time, because you play a lot, and maybe you don't get paid as much as a player in another country would be paid. But yeah, and there is a lot of traveling. Finland is quite a long country, and there is up to 8 hours bus ride, especially for me that I live in Helsinki, and Helsinki is like in the south of Finland, and then there is cities in the north of Finland that it's 8-hour bus rides. It's quite it gets quite tough sometimes, especially if you have few games during the weekend and they are all in the north, and then of course then the team arranges itself to sleep somewhere. But yeah, traveling is definitely, and it's always by bus. So yeah.
And what about gear, physiotherapists, trainers, and so on? Is it all taken care of by each team?
That also depends on the team. The gear is mostly taken care of, especially helmets and gloves, sticks. But then depends on the team you're in. You might get more equipment than in other teams. Some you can keep it to yourself. Some other teams, they request it back at the end of the season. And then for the staff, that also depends on the team. Some teams can afford better, not better staff, but where there is more people in the staff. So, and physiotherapists and staff managers, staff guys, water boys, and whoever you might think of. But it really depends on the team.
Yeah, so that was it, Nicolas. Thank you again for being here with us today.
Thank you, Martin.